a school and an organisation reopened on the 7th of July this year. And when we did this, we had obviously quite a few challenges. We weren't sure of how many students we would be welcoming back to our schools. And for that reason, it was difficult to assess, obviously, space. And we obviously wanted to make it as safe as possible. So we had several different aspects that were impacted, including these ones here. So in terms of our teaching and learning, first of all, we had to reimagine the physical classroom. So we had to think about how we could socially distance all our students in a safe way, yet keep the quality of the teaching as it has always been. So when we thought about the classroom itself, we did some straightforward things. For example, we separated out the desks into quite an old school setup, so one person per desk. We also chose our largest classrooms that we had. In London Central, where I work, we're very lucky. We have a very big school with some large classrooms, so that really helped us. And we also chose classrooms that have good ventilation. And again, in London Central, we even have 4 different floors. So we were able to spread out our classes on different floors as well. And we even tried to use as much as we could our outside space. In one of our schools, Eastbourne, they have a beautiful garden. So they were able to use that outside space as a classroom and have different zones where people could work. And in London Central, we have a fantastic roof terrace looking over London. So we made the most of that space as well. And we then thought about what classroom rules needed to change or be adapted. So we first of all realized that each student had to be assigned their own desk for that class. And they weren't able or weren't allowed to move away from that. So they were keeping their 1 meter distance away from the other students at all times, and they weren't changing desks. We also instigated the rule of not sharing things like stationery amongst our students. So every student had to bring their own set of stationery and not share. We also tried to minimize things like photocopies, which would mean that students would congregate or that they might be touching the same item. So we tried to scan things as much as we could and use our IWB equipment. And we also strongly encouraged the use of electronic devices in the classroom. And this is, I guess, a bit of a switch sometimes from perhaps the past, where mobile phones were seen as a bit of a hindrance. Now they really came to our aid. So we really wanted students to either bring a phone or a laptop or a tablet, because that meant we didn't have to give them photocopies and we could set them individual tasks. And this brings me on quite neatly to technology, our savior in this situation. So we really try to maximize our use of technology in the classroom and even outside the classroom as well, to our best advantage. So we'd actually been teaching online for a few months before we reopened, and we'd already set in motion quite a few new practices for us. We'd already digitalized all our progress tests, so students didn't have to all sit together. They could do that in a separate room using their laptop away from other people. We also instigated things like setting homework online and marking online, again reducing paper. And we maximize the use of things like online learning platforms such as Padlet, Edmodo, Flipgrid, Google Docs. Many of these things are very, very useful as ways of interacting in the classroom, and I'll come back to that in a bit later. Then moving on to adapting the classroom activities themselves. It was tricky at first because obviously quite a few things we naturally do as teachers, such as running dictations or mingles, are just really tricky, and we had to reassess how we could do these things, or did we have to just do something different? As we wanted to keep our lessons interactive and as communicative as possible, it was really important that students could work in pairs, interact with each other in as normal way as possible. So even though they are on one table, they are able to move from side to side and change partner, so they could have a different partner. And again, we started to really think about how technology could be our friend in this situation. So things like collaborative writing, we could set students to do using Google Docs. Google Docs is great if you've used it before. I imagine many of you have. You can collaborate together, edit one document together, and it can be shown on the big screen. So this was really great for writing tasks. And things like Padlet, you can send messages in real time as well and have a conversation with someone. And Mentimeter, you can also get feedback on the board without actually coming to the board. So these things started to really work for us, and I think we had a bit of an advantage because we'd already been using some of these tools online for online teaching, so they weren't a complete shock to us or our teachers as well. Okay. And other things that we found about classroom activities was because we were asking our students to stay still in one place, that kind of made people a little bit lethargic. So activities that involved standing up when you have an answer, but not moving around the classroom necessarily, but being a bit more physical, really kind of broke that up a little bit. And teacher monitoring is and has been tricky, but this was something we really had to think about. Did we want teachers to walk around the classroom? Did we want them to stay at the front? I think in the end we decided that staying at the front was the better option, but sometimes you really do need to get around the classroom. And when this happened, many teachers felt that it would be better just to wear a mask, and even if they're trying to listen to someone, maybe have their back to them and face the other way, but obviously try and keep their distance at the whole time. Okay, and the changes that were happening to classes and classroom activities had a bit of a side effect, which is it made it a bit more time consuming to prep for teachers. However, this has improved over time because as teachers have got used to scanning documents rather than photocopies and have got used to the technology, this process has sped up, so it isn't as laborious as it was initially. Another effect is on the school timetables. So in some of our schools, our smaller schools like Cambridge, for example, they decided to have a staggered timetable because they felt that this would mean that students would be entering and exiting at different times, and that would make it mean that there was easier social distancing throughout the school. And this also helped in the staff room because fewer teachers were in the same place at the same time. So this was another way to avoid that kind of bottleneck of students and bottleneck of teachers in the staff room as well. Okay. So moving on now to some tips, I guess, and suggestions that as we've gone along, we've kind of discovered. I think the first thing is definitely assess and plan your layout and the movements of your students and staff. This was, for us, done in a bit of a rush because we really wanted to open when we were allowed to open. But we did get it done. We redid our health and safety policies. We sent it out to our students and our staff. However, I would say once is not enough. You've got to you've got to say it again, basically, and again and again. And that might be to your staff, as in, please, can you wear your mask when you're in communal areas? Or it may be to your students as well, just reminding them of the rules. Okay, so think about your layout and make it really, really clear, and convey that to your staff and students. Okay. Also, we found that another really good thing is that technology has also really helped us reduce the need for large groups being together and in some cases physical contact altogether. For example, our registrars, most of our registrars now work from home, so this is quite a big change. And in one school in particular, they now have a virtual reception. So students will come in and they will talk to Zoom, who on the other end of Zoom is one of our registrars, And so the same process is being replicated like it has been done in other places like banks in the past. Now this is the case in some of our schools. So this, again, made it a bit safer for our students and our staff as well. We've also implemented other ways of reducing contact. So all our placement tests for our students are now online, and our induction process is all online as well through Zoom. Again, that is done before the students arrive, so it's actually beneficial because now we have more data, more information about our students, and we can actually have a better idea of class sizes and levels before they arrive on that first day. Okay, and as well as obviously making your policies clear to your staff and your students, I think it's really important to be prepared to accept feedback from both, from staff and students, and to have an open channel of communication. So if there's a suggestion or if somebody's uncomfortable with something or they don't feel safe, they can tell you, and that can be changed immediately. And also, I think it's important to stress to especially your staff that these rules and policies may change as new information comes in from governments, local authorities. So it's not fixed in stone. Okay. And another thing is, I guess, where possible, as I said before, utilize your outside space. This is very weather dependent, and we've had, I have to say, a glorious summer in the UK and spring, so we've been very lucky. As I said, we used gardens and we had different zones, and this was really great. We also did trips outside, so sometimes classes were actually outdoor classes that maybe they had to do a presentation, but they did it on a tour of London. So we tried to use our creativity to have outdoor lessons as well as indoor lessons. And where possible, if you can, try and think outside the box and think of solutions for things that you come across. In a similar vein, for instance, when quarantining started, we had quite a major issue. How are we going to continue our lessons with some people not even being able to get in the building, but still in the country wanting lessons? So we came up with, first of all, the idea of a hybrid class where a student logs in through Zoom, and there is a computer in the classroom and they join in that way. This wasn't the perfect solution. We had some technical issues, and so we actually decided then to go back to full lessons online just for quarantiners. So we did a 2-week rotation just for students who had to quarantine. So yeah, think outside the box, but also be realistic. I think you've got to keep in mind that you want the students to still have their student experience. So some things may just not really work, so you do need to have sort of assess those things. And I think it's very important to realize that social distancing on its own is not the only option. So think about what else you can do. So can you clean areas regularly? In our school, we decided that we wanted to keep teachers and students in one class all day long, but this was quite a drag for students. They felt that they'd seen the same people, the same teacher, and it was hard for the teacher. So instead, we decided what we do is get the cleaners to clean the area, basically twice a day, so morning and lunchtime. And then in the afternoon, we could then give them to another, a teacher to a different class and students to a different class. So we're always trying to think, what else can we do? If this isn't working, then what else can we use as well? Okay. But there have been some really positive things from our experience. I think the main thing I've taken away from this is how adaptable we can be, and that we can just find a solution, and that we've managed to keep going. We've managed to reopen and create a good and safe environment for learning. And the feedback that we've received from our students has been very positive, and students seem very enthusiastic to be here in the school and in London. They want to take part in social activities. They really appreciate that they are having face-to-face lessons, which wasn't possible for such a long time. We feel that also, I guess, the demographic is quite self-selecting in our students. So the ones that will come to our school perhaps are the ones that are less worried and maybe they tend to be younger, so they perhaps have fewer health concerns, and therefore they don't come and tell us about problems. It's more likely that we have to remind them of the rules and say, oh, you need to look at the signage and be aware of what you're doing. But generally, they seem to be very happy. And very, very importantly, I don't think that our quality of lessons has been affected at all. Our teachers are very experienced, and they've also been teaching online. They've really got to grips with the technology that we're using as well, and the new rules that have come into place. And so another thing we're quite proud of is the overall experience for students while being in London and being at our school seems to be a positive one and hasn't changed that much. They're still able to have accommodation, stay with a host family, and join in social activities. Social activities are still running. They're both online and also in face-to-face groups. Currently, the limit is 6 people per group, so this is something that we're bearing in mind when we're planning. There's a limit to how many people can do one activity. I think another really good point is this has been for us quite a good catalyst for change in our school and our organisation. It's certainly pushed us to implement lots of new practices that we were wanting to do perhaps before, but it never felt the right time or it seemed too tricky. I think a good example is all our systems that have now become digitalized and online. We were very much kind of old school in that we were using paper registers and a lot of paper actually. So just the reduction of paper and having systems that everyone can access at any time has made things more efficient for us. And so it's a good step in the right direction in that sense. I think also that over the course of this experience since July and even before that, the health and safety procedures that are now in place have become very normal for us and very normal for our students. For example, everybody knows they need to wear a face mask when they're walking in the communal areas, and if they want, they can wear it in the classroom. And this is no longer strange for us. It feels like we have slowly adapted to this new normal. And so currently we're very pleased with what we've managed to achieve, and we're hoping that as time goes on we will get more students coming back, but we feel that what we're offering now is a safe and positive learning environment. So thank you very much. Has anyone got any questions? I'm just going to look in my little chat box. Let's see what I have. Okay, just 1 second. So I think the moderators may just be copying them for me. I'm just having a look now. Okay, sorry, 1 second. I can't see the questions. I'm just checking with the moderators at the moment. Bear with me.
Hello, Ravi. How are you doing? This is Doug speaking.
Having some technical issues here.
I can read to you the question. How about that? And we can interact. The first question comes from Belen Casanova. How was the protocol for recess?
Can you clarify what you mean by recess? Because it's not a word we actually use very much in the UK.
While Belen Casanova can clarify the concept of recess, we can go to the next one. Merv Aden is asking, what are some ideas to assess students in distance education?
To assist students in so online learning?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so we've done online learning since, well, we were doing online learning since March up until July. And so actually I was working quite closely with teachers on this. So certainly there are a few tips I can suggest. We were using Zoom as our way of, but you could use Microsoft Teams. One thing that came up was that when you're doing online teaching, online studying, it can be very exhausting and hard, very tiring because you're staring at the screen. So we found that using sort of tasks that make the student either go away from Zoom for a bit, maybe do a bit of self-study and come back, can be really engaging for students. So something that we've used quite a bit actually is an online platform called Flipgrid. It's absolutely free, and it means that students can be set a question and then they can record a video that actually answers that question, and then they can comment on each other's videos, and this kind of stuff can be done away from Zoom as a project, and then they bring it back, and then the teacher can comment and the students can comment. So certainly breaking up the lessons, because it's very tiring online. So that's my biggest tip, I would say.
Thank you. And we go back to Belen. Can you see the question now? How was the protocol for recess or break?
Ah, okay. So when students are not studying. Okay, so we're very lucky in London Central. In the break times, we have a lot of space. So we really didn't have very many problems. However, I would say if you're in a small school, if you have that problem, definitely consider a staggered timetable. So as I said, Cambridge, I think, used that, and they started at 9 and 9:30. So this got away from that problem of a bottleneck of students if you have separate break times. Okay.
The next one comes from Lucia.
Which one, sorry?
From Lucia Nicoletti, question. You talked about going back online for students on quarantine.
That's right.
Was that extra teaching on top of your regular teaching hours?
Yes. So this was a kind of an emergency measure, but it's actually worked in our favor. So what we realized was we're getting so many people from different, especially European countries, who just couldn't come in for a couple of weeks, and they were tempted to cancel their booking. So what we did was we offered them 2 weeks of free lessons and free accommodation, and so for quarantine students. And we've used quite a lot of our furloughed teachers who are already very well versed with teaching online. And so they taught a 2-week cycle of lessons, and then those students, once they had quarantine, could then come to the school and continue their studies at school. So it was really a way to keep and retain these students that we were really worried just wouldn't come to our school, by offering them this special package that got them through the door and kept them with us. And that's actually worked really, really well for us. So we're very pleased we took that risk. Okay.
Next question comes from Mervy and Aiden. Question, how can we motivate students online?
Okay, so I think that's quite a similar question to the last one. But so we talked about asynchronized learning, sorry. I think that online can be just as interactive as it is in the physical classroom. Certainly with Zoom and other things, you can use breakout rooms, you can set projects. I think you need to be careful with your feedback. It can be that if you do too much feedback, too much individual feedback, it can drag. So you need to really look for universal themes in what you're listening to, and use your screen really well. A really good, again, free tool that you can use for online teaching is Miro. Miro as in M-I-R-O. And this is brilliant because you can have lots of different slides with all your worksheets there ready, and it just pops up. And so you can easily access lots of things very, very quickly. So our teachers found that Miro was a really user-friendly tool where they could just copy over their documents or whatever they were using, and it was all there for them.
Perfect. And because of time, this is the final question. Okay. It comes from Sayed Mansour. Sorry if I'm butchering the name. What about primary learners? How we can convince them to keep social distancing or keep their well-being, not touching staff or other materials?
That is a very good question. It's not easy. I think just being vigilant. So having good signage. I was meant to mention my signage. I actually forgot about my signage, but having signage in the classroom, outside, making sure teachers are reminding students, you need to not congregate here. You need to follow the one-way system. I think the feeling I have is the only way we can do it is just keep reminding people, and also having everything there. So having the hand sanitizer, the cleaning stations, and making sure that students feel comfortable to use these things, to wear their mask if they want to. But really my only advice is to just keep being vigilant, keep reminding, and enforce the rules that you've applied so that they've just become the norm.
Thank you very much, Ali, for answering our questions.
You're welcome. Thank you, teachers.
Thank you. At this point, I would like to ask Candy, our next presenter, to open her camera and to say hi to us. I'd like to point out that Candy will not be, she will not have any slides. We will stay with this slide with her name. She will have a very general, she will just present information.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Thank you for that. I just want to start by saying to Abby that was a really helpful presentation. I got loads of advice from that. It was really informative. So thank you very much indeed. Hi, everyone. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. Yep, great. Okay, so it's really heartwarming to see that there are so many people all around the world, and we're all here in the same situation, supporting each other. So that's fantastic. And yeah, let's share our experiences. So I work at the English Language Centre, which is actually in Brighton, near London. And basically when lockdown started, the school went online overnight. It was a big shift, a massive challenge. Lots of new skills had to be learned. And then as things relaxed, it became mixed. So students could go back into the classroom, but also there were also students on Zoom at the same time. Now, the main things that I've experienced in this situation are dealing with technology, changes in teaching practice, teachers and students' feelings, new ideas for the classroom, and dealing with anxiety for the students and also for the teachers. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is technology. There's the classic teacher and technology relationship, which has not always been a very happy one. So this has been a huge challenge. This week, I went back into the classroom. I had 5 students in the classroom and 1 on Zoom. This was not an easy experience, but it worked fine. And actually, all of the students are super understanding and they're very patient. And yeah, it was quite successful and it was a really positive experience. The most important advice I can give you if you're having to deal with new technology is to test and check at least 10 or 15 minutes before you use it. And then when you've got it up and running, just don't turn it off. Don't turn it off and then turn it back on again when the class starts, because it could all go horribly wrong. And the difference between in the past, when we could just give up and think, okay, do you know what, maybe we won't do this in this lesson, we'll do something else. That's just not an option. You cannot decide not to have the students in the class. So yeah, give yourself time. If the timetable doesn't allow time, you need to speak to the people who sort out the timetable and arrange that, because it's really, really important. and it will make your life much easier. So, teaching practice. Yeah, a big change in teaching practice. My personal preference is creative teaching. I like to get the students to move around. I like to provide investigative learning, getting out of the classroom, you know, lots of running around, as Abby mentioned. It's really good, you know, to motivate students and build up the energy with running dictations, you know, sort of speed date chat, things like that. So we can't do any of that at the moment. So it feels quite limited at the beginning. So we have to adapt to that situation and rethink some activities that don't move the students all around. We can't do close monitoring either. So some ideas for these activities and things that you can use to raise the energy and motivation in the classroom include, if you want to do speed games, where in the past students would run to the board and write something, maybe try, if you have them, on mini whiteboards. Thank you, Jess, for this suggestion, by the way. So the mini whiteboards can be allocated to the students for the duration of the course that they're on. They can leave them on their desks, or if they're allowed to by the school, they can take them home with them. So there's no issue of sharing. And so, yeah, obviously they use the same one every day. Another one is the classroom management. So I've found that if you arrange the tables in a long horseshoe, so a short table at the top and then the long tables down the sides, that gives you the option of having the ability to change partners without students moving at all, because they can speak directly to the person in front of them or to the person to the side of them. And that works quite well. What else can you do? Oh yeah, another one from Jess. Pop-up quizzes. Okay, if you want to get some quizzes, some quiz fun energy in the room. This is just general good practice actually. Pop-up quizzes to recall language from the previous day. Just about 8 to 10 questions as a bit of a warmer to get students feeling good in the lesson and to help them learn their new vocabulary and grammar and things like that. Okay, so that's tech, teaching practice, ideas. Oh yeah, feelings, very important. Students have been extremely accepting and actually very, very happy in the school. They've all been through lockdown in their own countries, so what the difference is, the new normal that they experience here is no surprise to them. They don't have any other expectations. The students we have at the moment are probably not even aware that usually the whole building is just jam-packed with students. So it doesn't really seem to matter to them. For me, personally, I'm really enjoying smaller classes. I also find it easier to concentrate in a quieter staff room. Not great for the school, but great for us as individual teachers. Always got to take the positives. Another thing about students' feelings, I don't tend to focus on COVID in the classroom. I like to give students more positive topics to think about. That's for their sort of general well-being, to give them a break from all this crazy stuff that's going on. Right, about you. You will feel mentally tired again. You probably had a long break, twiddling your thumbs, learning how to make macrame plant hangers, I don't know, learning an instrument, probably doing jigsaws. When you go back in the classroom, it's like, whoa, at the end of the day, I am tired again. And it's quite a nice feeling. So if you're in that situation, I would advise that you take some time before you go to work, not in the morning, but like just the weekend or whatever, to prepare some really nice dinners so that, you know, you can just pop it in the oven when you get home. You don't have to go shopping or do anything else, because it'll probably be a bit of a shock to the system when he goes back into the school with all these new things to learn, etc. Leave your evenings, at least for the first week, free, so you can totally relax. Okay, the last thing I'm going to talk about is anxiety. So this is for teachers and for the students as well, so you can pass this through in your lessons. So if you're feeling anxious, your emotional comfort is vital. It's very important because it's actually contagious, just like COVID. So maybe you can share in the chat box what you do to deal with your feelings of anxiety, and we can share some ideas. Personally, mine is I've got really into meditation. I never did it before. I absolutely love it. It really helps to stay sane-ish. It's really helped, and this speaking is a really good example, because before lockdown, before I started meditation to deal with anxiety, there's no way I would have done something like this. So this is the proof. If you're not into that, any meditative activity. Okay, so it helps to practice mindfulness, obviously. If you are going back to school and you're anxious about it, try to live in the moment. Don't live in the past, reliving past bad experiences, and try not to go into the future. Try not to imagine, oh my God, what's it going to be like? Okay, because you are a professional. All teachers are hugely adaptable, and you will just adapt. So you don't really need to do it until you get there. And the students are really, really supportive and lovely. So yeah, great camaraderie as well at the moment between teachers and students, everyone working together. Oh yeah, one last thing. Things in your classroom. You know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Hand gel, wipes, okay? And it's really good for the students to see you wiping board pens, power switches, light switches, door handles, and the backs of chairs, okay? Because they can often be overlooked. And if the students see that you're on it, they will feel more secure and everyone will feel good. And yeah, any questions? How can we manage a big classroom online? I've never done it, so good luck. Managing the 8-year-old, oh, that sounds very difficult. We've been online since the quarantine, but found out today we are doing face-to-face teaching. Yeah, tips to help be more productive. Yeah, okay, so if you're doing that mixed classroom, like I have this week, Bluetooth speaker, as I said before, give yourself time to test it, get it all running, make sure it's fully charged, and you can move it around. So it's a microphone speaker, and you can move it from table to table, okay, to pair them up with other people. If you've got an interactive whiteboard, everyone can see them on the screen. It seems to work very well. Okay. Any more questions here? How can we teach grammar online? How to get them interested in grammar? So I would opt for making the most of visuals, definitely sort of making up scenarios to go with funny pictures, changing the grammar form. So what has just happened in this picture, something like that, and just mix it around. If you're doing it online, if you're using slides, you can do the same as you would in the classroom. Maybe give them a list of sentences with mistakes in, and then you can work in real time, annotating, changing things, writing down their suggestions. It works really well. Okay, I think that's all the advice I can give. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you to all of you teachers. Good luck, all of you. Lots of love. I'm going to hand you back to Joss.
Hi, Candy. Thank you so much for your advice. I was paying attention. My eyes open, especially when you mention well-being. Thank you so much for your advice and for sharing your experience with you. Thank you, Candy. Thank you, Abby. We have one more experience to share. At this point, I'll invite you to close your camera and to stay with us because we have one more experience to share with you. Just to let you know, this part has been being pre-recorded, so I will give you some advice to have a good experience. I know we're busy teachers. We might have different apps in our cell phones, or we have different web pages open in our desktops right now. So I invite you to close those in order to have the best experience as possible. We're going to run this video. It was sent to us from our colleague in Japan, Kash. He teaches in Japan in a junior high school there. So I'll invite you to watch this video. I will close my microphone now and I will play.
Hello everyone, my name is Kai Schwarmer and I'm coming to you from Kobe, Japan. It's 3 in the morning in Japan right now, so this webinar is pre-recorded, not live. I'll be sharing some reflections on web learning over the past 6 months and thoughts on the return to the classroom recently. Reflection 1. Juggling while sprinting. February 28th, 2020. The Japanese government announces that, as of March 2nd, all schools will be closed. We were just wrapping up the school year and preparing for the start of the new school year in April. Here in Japan, the school year starts in April, as maybe most of you know. As you can see from these photos, holding entrance ceremonies while trying to social distance is not a possibility. Everyone is packed in. While most other schools simply shut down altogether, we felt that the entrance ceremony commemorating the start of the school year was too meaningful to students and parents as well to simply cancel. So we had to think of something else, an alternative, and fast. So we held planning meetings daily right after the announcement and worked well into the night thinking of what we could do and how we could do it. We decided to run the entrance ceremony as a live broadcast, kind of news conference style. Since this event was unprecedented, it felt like juggling while sprinting. We had never done something like this before, especially on this scale. With thousands of students and parents watching. And since this was such a meaningful event for first-year students and parents, we didn't want anything to go wrong technically. So we spent countless hours making sure all the technical details were covered and rehearsing for every possible scenario. The day of the event came, and the event was a success. No balls dropped so far. But the work was not done, far from it. In Japan, following the entrance ceremony, students usually go off to meet their homeroom teachers and hold their first homeroom. Clearly, this wasn't possible to do in person, so we had each and every homeroom teacher set up their classroom as if students were actually there and deliver their first homeroom to students via the web. As you can imagine, the technical ramifications of this were enormous, as juggling while sprinting. But the work was not done, far from it. While most schools were shut down completely, we made the decision to start classes on schedule with nearly a full schedule. Normally, students would come to school and pick up their textbooks and other materials in person, but this was the new normal. So we had to think of something fast. And we decided to pack all of the materials each student needed and send each individual student a personalized box by courier. Each individual box you see in these photos is for one single student. And since we have over 1,600 students, we had to pack 1,600 boxes and send each box out individually. But the work wasn't done yet, far from it. Each student at our school is also issued a smartphone and a PC. So we packed and delivered these as well. Now we were finally ready to start online classes on schedule with as full a schedule as possible. So we went ahead with nearly a full schedule of classes, all online. So these are science classes, and these are PE classes. PE teachers had to completely revamp their program so students could participate at home, which here in Japan, given the size of most homes, was no easy task, believe me. Here's the music teacher delivering classes online. Home economics teacher even posted daily recipes for students and parents to use at home. Again, while we were doing this, most other schools at the time were simply closed entirely. They gave students a bit of homework and off you go. So naturally, what we were doing started to attract some attention and turn some heads. It wasn't long until NHK, which is the Japanese equivalent of the BBC in the UK, came to the school and they did an entire news special on what we were doing. Here's some images from that program that was broadcast nationally. Soon other networks were coming up to the school and doing stories on what we were doing as well. But as Murphy's Law would have it, just as we were getting used to delivering web-based lessons, the announcement was made to open schools up and have students return to the classroom. This opened up a whole new can of worms and a whole new set of unprecedented problems to overcome. And not missing a beat, we immediately started thinking of creative ways to implement social distancing while still running as full a schedule as possible while having students at school in person. We even redesigned our school logo. That was easy. Figuring out how to safely deliver classes to students with 50 students per class proved to be much more difficult. Our solution? We used the gym. So we spent a few days disinfecting the entire gym and bringing desks from the classrooms, which was in another building, into the gym, setting up. So finally we set up 4 classrooms, all socially distanced, all fully ventilated in the gymnasium. And we staggered the schedules with different grades coming in on different days. Okay, here's me delivering a lesson in one of the martial arts halls. So the school has a gymnasium and 2 smaller gyms as well that we used. You can see the tires in the background. Those are used during kendo practice. So clearly not an ideal situation, but better than the alternative, which was to shut down completely, which most other schools were doing. And normally in our English classes, we do a lot of pair work and group work. So I had to completely rethink what sorts of activities would still enable communication while maintaining social distancing. For those of you around the world who use American Headway, these images might look familiar. And this is another hall that we use as a makeshift classroom. As you can see, not exactly conducive to pair work or group work, but we found a way to make it work. And again, much better than the alternative, which is just to have the students not come to school at all. Okay, I'd like to talk a little bit about the online lessons. There's only so much Zoom one can take. I found that having a variety of formats and mediums was the key to keeping students involved and engaged over the several months that we were doing web-based lessons. So in addition to the problems of holding lessons via Zoom, I was faced with the challenge of incorporating writing activities online, right? So in my classes, I developed all 4 skills. So how to have students write while doing Zoom lessons was a bit of a challenge. So one solution was to have students use a pen tablet. And while experimenting with different techniques, one student actually accidentally discovered that he could use his stylus directly on his mouse pad of his PC. So we ended up using a combination of stylus and pen tablets to do the writing activities. And assignments were delivered via OneNote for a completely paperless experience. And students also used their school smartphones, and using apps like Adobe Scan, we were able to have students send PDF files of their homework, which they scanned in on their phones and sent to us by email. In addition to the live sessions, we also did recorded lessons using Microsoft Stream. Stream is a kind of Microsoft Office version of YouTube. So we had numerous channels with hundreds of videos created by teachers over the duration of the shutdown. All of our students have Microsoft Office 365 installed on their PCs and smartphones. So this was quite helpful in making the online experience as seamless and painless as possible. Not that it was painless, mind you. And some of the apps we used, just for your interest, are Stream, as I just mentioned, Forms, which we use to deliver tests and assessments, Teams, which we use to keep everyone in touch, OneNote for making everything paperless, and of course PowerPoint to create and deliver the lessons. I also, in my own classes, used other apps such as Flipgrid, which is also made by Microsoft, Quizlet, and Kahoot to add even more variety. But one big lifesaver for my own classes was the Oxford Reading Club. Here in Japan, it's called the Oxford Reading Club, but maybe for those of you who live in other countries, maybe ask OUP how these are delivered in your country. Basically, the Oxford Reading Club has hundreds of readers, both fiction and non-fiction, including the wonderful ORT, or Oxford Reading Tree series. These are really, really helpful. Instead of having to deliver books to students, the students are able to log in and read these books and listen to them as well and do activities all online. Also, our second-year students, we have a CLIL program, a long-standing CLIL program, which I've been running for the last 8 years. So these books are from the Oxford Reading Club, hugely helpful in supplementing our online CLIL classes. And believe me, teaching CLIL via the web is not easy. These are some images from some of the books. Okay, all kinds of titles related to CLIL. So again, really, really helpful. Another thing we did was create a series of weekly podcasts for students to listen to. And other English teachers held talk show format lessons as well. And we even had cooking classes in English. Anything to keep things interesting. Mind you, I am not the best cook in the world. I'd like to finish with a final reflection on physical and mental health. Even though we were all struggling with a massive workload and isolation, we made an effort to keep students in as high spirits as possible. We had regular calls outside of class to check up on students. We shortened classes, increased the length of breaks in between classes. PE teachers would use these breaks to deliver short exercise routines to get students up and moving between classes. Once students returned to school, we focused on healing. We created art projects around the school. We also brought in an ikebana, or Japanese flower arrangement instructor. We had students create flower arrangements and put them in locations around the school. We were blessed to have a campus surrounded with greenery and encouraged students to spend their breaks, which we extended, outdoors in the fresh air as much as possible. And we also opened up the school's rose garden for students to relax in and posted daily photos from the garden to our school's website. And finally, in August, we decided to take our students out to the countryside to escape the city entirely. We spent 4 days with first-year students in the mountains of northern Hyogo Prefecture. I spent the 4 days with them. It was a great experience. High school students spent several days at Mount Koya, the home of many temples and ancient forests in nearby Wakayama Prefecture. So in my opinion, having our students break free and spend time in nature was hugely beneficial. Prior to this summer camp, students were nervous, apprehensive, and seemed genuinely shell-shocked. I could see a visible change in students as they started to loosen up, relax, and bond in the mountains of Hyogo Prefecture. At the beginning of the year, these paths leading up to our school were empty. These halls were devoid of life. I look forward to the day when the halls and classrooms are once again filled with laughter and smiles of happy students. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. On a final note, Oxford University Press has a fantastic series of modules that I've found extremely helpful in planning and delivering my own web-based lessons. Please have a look for these on the OUP website. Also, in order to continue sharing ideas with all
Hello, teachers. This is Josadak speaking. At this point, we have finished the third part, our third teacher who has shared his experience. Now, I would like to invite you to stay put and to join us for yoga class. Please read the following disclaimer before you decide to try this at home. As a reminder, you will receive the recording of this session in your email. Also, you'll receive the certificate of attendance and an impact study survey. We at Oxford University Press, we like to hear your feedback. Victoria, at this point, I will change the space. Teachers, you will not you will not see a chat box after I change the setting of the room. Just to let you know, you will not have a chat box. You will only be able to see the video. You will be able to see Victoria, our yoga trainer. So at this point, I will close my microphone. I will change to Hello, Victoria. Good to see you again. So at this point, I will close my microphone and I will leave the room for you.
Thank you, Josadak. Thank you. So welcome, everyone. I want to share with you this evening a 15-minute sequence that really focuses on the upper body, so the shoulders and the chest. So, you know, if we've been doing lots of stuff on the computer, can really open up the upper body. But what this also does is help the breath move freely, and that's really important at the moment. So, you know, when the breath is moving freely and it's moving in the belly and the chest, it can really help our mood and make us feel better. So it's some little physical movements with some breath stuff to open up the upper body and lift the mood. So we're actually going to do this one seated. So you can be in your chair. So you could, of course, do this at any time. And I recommend that you sit to the front edge of the chair. So you're not sort of sitting back and leaning on the chair, but you're going to be right to the front edge and have your feet flat on the floor. And then you'll bring one hand onto your lower belly, so below the navel, and the other hand will come to the upper chest, but you can have it slightly out to the side so you can relax the elbows. And then you'll sit tall, so you feel the two sitting bones on the chair, and you feel the crown of the head lifting. So you relax the shoulders. And then if you're comfortable, you can close the eyes here. So take a moment to come into the physical body. So much of, you know, when you're teaching, you're in your head, you're thinking a lot. Really helps to come into the physical body. So feel your feet on the floor. You might even lift and spread the toes. And then bring the toes back to the floor. You can feel the two sitting bones on the chair. And you can feel that the shoulders are dropping down away from the ears and the crown of the head is lifting. So awareness of the physical body sitting on the chair. And then you can bring awareness to your breath. Feel the movement of the breath in the body underneath your hands. So as you breathe in, you can feel the tummy expanding, the chest expanding. And as you breathe out, feel the tummy releasing, chest releasing. Okay, so you're not pushing or forcing, but you're beginning to bring your awareness into the movement of the breath underneath your hands. So as the breath comes in, you feel that expansion underneath the hands. And as the breath goes out, you feel the releasing or the softening under the hands. Staying with that. And as you continue to follow the breath underneath the hands, could you notice whether you feel the movement more underneath one hand than the other? And there's no right or wrong with this. It's really for you just to notice. So perhaps you feel the movement of the breath more in the bottom hand, and maybe some of you feel it more underneath the upper hand. So just notice. Good. So if your eyes are closed, you can open them now. And you'll bring both arms out in front of you, so arms straight forward to relax the shoulders. And really simple, as you breathe in, take the arms wide. And as you breathe out, bring the arms back in front of you. So really, really simple. Inhale, feel the ribs expanding as the breath comes in. And exhale, the ribs are moving in and down as the breath goes out. So stay with that. Inhale, feel the chest expand. And exhale, feel the chest soften. Continue. Inhale. Maybe you can feel the sides of the body expanding. And exhale, sides of the body softening. A few more like that. You might even feel the breath in the back ribs a little bit as you breathe in and the arms go wide. And exhale, arms coming forward. So one more like that, breathing in, feeling the chest expanding, the side body, the back body. And then exhale, arms coming forward. Keep breathing here. Take the arms wide and bring the hands onto the shoulders. Okay? And then you're going to make some circles. Elbows come forward, up and back. Now this one, it's not really linked to the breath, and actually you can speed it up a little bit if you like. So if there's any sort of stagnant energy in the upper body, you're going to get that moving and unblocking. So maybe speed up a little bit and then change direction. So you can come forward, and again, you might do it a little bit faster. You might even feel like a bit of tingling there, something moving. And then you'll do one arm one way and one the other way. So it will look like this. And you might even let the body move a little bit in the chair. So kind of let the rest of the body join in. And again, you might speed up a little bit. And then go the other way. Again, the body can join in and you might go a little bit faster. Good. And then release the hands. Let the shoulders roll back and down. Maybe just close the eyes a moment and notice now how the shoulders feel, how the chest feels, how the upper back feels. Maybe it feels a little bit more awake. Maybe there's some tingling or some sensations going on. Good, and then you can open the eyes. You can interlace the fingers in front of you, and I'm just going to show you from the side, but you extend the knuckles forwards and you drop the chin to the chest. And at the same time, try to pull the wrists away from each other. And you'll feel this broadening between the shoulder blades and across the upper back. And imagine that you could breathe into that space. You could visualize that even as spacious or light. Good, and then you can lift your head, separate the hands, so arms go wide, reach the arms up, and then you're going to catch your right wrist in your left hand, and you'll reach over to the left. Now you might look down towards the floor just to release your neck, but you feel that nice opening through the side body, and maybe you can even feel the breath here. And then bring yourself back up to vertical and change wrist. So you're holding the wrist and you're reaching over. You might look down to release the neck. So side body, you're getting some space between the ribs, stretching those muscles between the ribs. And perhaps you can feel the breath moving in the side body or visualize it even. And then come back to vertical. Now take the hands behind you, and I'm going to show you from the side. Interlace the fingers behind you and then start to lift the arms. Just be careful if you've got a back on your chair that you're not going to hit the chair. Okay, so you're lifting the arms away from the body and you're really opening up this area around the collarbones. And in fact, the lungs go up above the collarbones. So we're really opening up the upper chest here. Keep your head in neutral. Good, and then you can release that. We'll take a little twist. So you can twist to the right, and left arm can just rest on the outside of your leg, and the other arm can wrap behind you. Okay, so keep the pelvis neutral, and as you breathe in, imagine that you're getting taller, that the crown of the head is lifting. And as you breathe out, spin the navel to the right. So you're twisting. Inhale, sit a little bit taller, and exhale, navel to the right. Just do that one more time. Inhale, sit taller. Exhale, the navel to the right. And then with the inhale, you gently release back to center and we change sides. So you're wrapping the arms. You root the sitting bones, and with the inhale, you sit a little bit taller. And the exhale, you spin the navel. Inhale, sit taller. And exhale to spin the navel. Just one more like that, using the breath. Good, and let the inhale bring you back to center. And then you can simply do some shoulder rolls here. Good, okay, so take the arms wide. Now you're going to bring your right arm on top of the left, and you've got two options here. You might give yourself a hug and try and creep your fingers underneath the shoulder blades. Well, some of you might be able to bring the backs of the hands to face each other and then bring the palms together. Okay. And then you start to lift the elbows up, move the forearms away from the face, and then slide the shoulder blades down the back. And if that's not working for you, as I said, you can hold the shoulder blades. It's the same move, really. And you feel this space kind of underneath the shoulder blades and between the shoulder blades. Good, and then as you breathe in, take the arms wide and exhale the other arm on top, so the left arm on top. Either hugging or palms together. And again, you start to lift the elbows. You move the forearms away from the face and you slide the shoulders down the back. And you can breathe into the shoulders, the upper back, even the middle back in this one. Good, and then with an inhale, take the arms wide. And exhale, release the hands. Now, you could release the arms beside you rather than on the lap and draw the shoulders down. I'm going to just do a little bit of movement through the neck before we finish. So as you breathe out, simply turn your head to the right and inhale to center. And exhale to the other side. And inhale to center. Keep going. Exhale, turning the head. Inhale, center. Exhale. Inhale, center. Now as you breathe out, drop the ear towards the shoulder. And inhale to center. And exhale, the other side. Inhale to center. Exhale, drop the ear, keep shoulders dropping down. Inhale, center. Exhale. Second side. So last one. And we come back to center now. Drop the chin to the chest. And then very gently roll your head to one side. And then bring the head back to center with the chin down. And then to the other side. So you're not taking your head all the way back. You're simply going side, forwards, side, forwards. And you can do that a couple more times. Okay, so the next time your head goes to the right, you're going to stay there. So right ear towards the right shoulder. Okay, now carefully bring your right hand behind your ear, and you can rest your fingertips on this little bony plate there behind your ear. Now don't pull on your head. Do not pull on your head, but simply rest your hand there and press your head back into your hand. So you're not pulling your head, but you're gently pressing your head into your hand. Keep the shoulders dropping down. You should start to feel a nice stretch down the side of the neck. And then you might even just turn your head a little bit so you feel the juiciest stretch. And when you find it, pausing there, keep breathing and imagine that you could breathe into the neck to create space and release the tension as you breathe out. Now keep your head where it is. Don't move your head, but bring your hand on the side of your face and use your hand to bring your head back. And then we'll do the second side. So left ear to left shoulder, you reach that left arm up and you bring the hand behind the ear, and without pulling on the head, you're going to press your head back into your hand. Pressing your head back into your hand and maybe turning the head a little bit to find the juiciest stretch. And when you find it, pause, breathe. If you could breathe in to create space and breathe out to release the tension. And then keeping your head where it is, you bring your hand on the side of the face and you use your hand to bring your head back to center. And then you release the arm. So we'll go back to how we started. One hand on the belly, one hand to the chest, relax the elbows. And if you're comfortable too, closing the eyes. Drop your awareness back into the breath. I can't really emphasize enough how much the breath has the power to really change your mood. So notice, again, the movement of the breath underneath your hands. So you feel that expansion as you breathe in and the softening as you breathe out. And now notice, is the breath moving more underneath one hand than the other? Maybe it's even. And is that different from when you first started this little sequence? Has anything changed? And there's no right or wrong, really just for you to notice. Has anything changed in that movement of the breath? Notice how you feel. And then you can bring the hands together in prayer. So Anjali Mudra at the heart. And with the heart lifted, bow the head, open the eyes if they're still closed, and lift the head. So that's a really simple little sequence that you can do, you know, if you've been on the computer or doing anything with the arms forwards like that, to open up the upper body and also get the breath moving in the belly and the chest, which will really make you feel better. So thank you. I'll hand you back to Josibak, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Victoria, for the session for today. Teachers, now we're back. Now I can see the chat box again, so now we can go back to the chat box. Teachers, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Candy. Thank you to Teacher Kach who sent us the video. Thank you, Victoria, for being with us today. As a reminder, please look out for the email that you will receive from us. It will include an invitation to help us understand how what you got out of ELT together. Do you feel confident with what you learned from these sessions? We'd like to hear more from you. So please keep an eye out for the email with the survey that you'll receive. This will help us to understand and develop future professional development programs that we are working to get to you. Teachers, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being with us. I know it's Friday. It's time to relax. It's time to, for some of us are finishing work today. Some of us are continue working on the weekend. Either case, have a good Friday. Enjoy. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, Avi, Candy. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Sandra. See you later.